When you have your data, what you might want to do is put it into Google Sheets and work out the averages, etc., and eventually make a graph that shows how the data changes as we go towards the city centre or away from the city centre. This one is for the Environmental Quality Index. This one is for the Bipolar Environmental Survey. But that is how you create a graph. I will show you how to do the trend line in another video. But anyway, if you want to use that data, but instead of putting it into graph, actually putting it onto GIS, there is a way of doing that using Google Sheets and using the data you've already entered. So as you can see, this one is the Environmental Quality Index, and it basically shows the values here, but in a spatial format. So it gives you an idea of things change through space in terms of geographical location as well. This would be a more complex way of presenting data, and therefore it's more difficult, and it would improve the quality of your data presentation in the IA. So to do that, what you basically need to do, I'll just remind you about finding each location for the Google Sheet. So yep, you just click on measure, go to there, and basically click, and that will, if you see, it will keep these two values around that dot, and then you can just copy that into a new sheet on your Google Sheets there. So there we go, that was Waterloo, and then what you need to do is just get the value that you had there for Waterloo, the averages of the values of all the data. So there we go, I've made one of these for the Environmental Quality Index, I've made one for the bipolar as well, and then the next part is basically getting this information into ArcGIS. And it's quite simple really. Click on the sheet you need. So in this case, we'll do the bipolar one as an example. Go to File, Download As, and we need to select this, comma separated values, CSV. And that will then download there, and it'll be in my downloads folder. And I just go to Add Layer from File. Here it is, just downloaded it, and then import the layer. And there's a few things you need to go through here, but it basically does it for you. Choose an attribute. There are other things you can do which may not really be necessary, but it's probably best to go with this one. And then there are certain things you can do. You can just play around and decide on how you want it to be shown. You might want to change the color, in which case you go to this and you change the color like that. You might want to decide on classifying the data in different ways. So if you see they've done what's called natural breaks, but you might want to do equal intervals, or quantiles, or set your own. I'd probably go for equal breaks, and then you could even increase the number of different size points you have there, and you can decide whether you put that to 1 decimal place or 2. 1's usually good. You can play around with the transparency right there. So what you might want to do is have them overlaying each other. Visible range, this is to do with zooming out of the map. You don't really need to fiddle with that. You'll only ever need it for this size map, really. And then you can click OK and done, and you will see that if we click on legend, this legend correlates to this data here. Here are ones I made earlier, the bipolar survey and the environmental quality index, and by making them transparent I can also see them overlaid on each other, so I can have a look at these two different types of environmental quality surveys and actually show spatially how they differ to each other, which is quite interesting. It could help you with the evaluation of what survey is best to use, or what survey is more appropriate in certain areas than others. Lets you see where there was wide discrepancies between the two surveys, such as your Surbiton and you're in Battersea Park, you know. That could be down to a number of reasons. Could be down to the style of the survey, or who was conducting the different surveys. Anyway, so hopefully that has helped you. Again, this will be a more complex way of presenting your data, and therefore hopefully get you some more marks for your IA.